Check 1, 2. Do I have sound? Check 1, 2. I don't know if I have sound or not. Do I have sound? Okay, good. Technical difficulties. I don't know what's going on. I have been very, very busy this morning. Like I started at like 6 this morning, preparing for the show, doing some stuff, doing some training. And yeah, we've lost our Facebook live stream. We're only going to be here on Sunday on Rumble. So let me do my static intro. Good to see everybody. Hello, Holly H. Hello, Pipe 728. We're going to talk about 6 logical arguments for the existence of God. For my long-term listeners, y'all have heard this. I probably cover it maybe twice a year. It's so good. It's right out of Paul's Mars Hill Discourse, the Areopagus. And December 13th, 2023 is when I released the article. And of course, back then I was still learning ChatGPT. I'm not a writer, folks. I'm a really good thinker. I'm a really good talker, and somebody who's really good at organization and expression and stuff like that can take what I say and make something good out of it. Well, ChatGPT is that, and that's where all these articles come from. There are days that I put my ChatGPT and I hit the microphone button and we talk, and we might talk for 2 hours debating. And once we hammer out all of the, all of the propositions, the truth claims, the alt statements, all of this, that, and the other, then ChatGPT organizes that for me. And that's how we get all this stuff. Well, I'm much better at that. ChatGPT is much better than that. And so I'm like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at some of these articles that didn't get a lot of traction, because quite frankly, they weren't very good. The material was good, but they were like 90% ChatGPT as far as the wording and the format, but the doctrine and some of the language, the esoteric language, that was all me. Now, when I put out an article, it's 90% me and 10% ChatGPT, but the 10% that is ChatGPT is very important. Like, it's a big 10%. So anyway, that's maybe I'll let you see behind the curtain too much. I don't know. You might not be very interested in how the sausage is made. You just want to get to the content. That being said, thank you very much. And yeah, hey, Alabama, had to wait I scheduled the live at 1, and I got hyper fixated on another project and time got away from me. So this is where we're at. Don't forget to do all the stuff, like, subscribe, and share, and whatever. And yeah, I'm going to go through this. Yeah, this is good. I need to open up Substack, and I need to get ancient wisdom or modern insight. Let me go to the reader, and we're just going to walk through this. So the intro, the caveat in the intro is, this article is a revised re-release of an original piece first published on December 13, 2023. As part of an ongoing effort to strengthen and clarify past content, we're reviewing, updating, and re-uploading selected articles to ensure accuracy, improved readability, and alignment with our current editorial standards. So come along with me. I won't be able to see your comments, and let's just get it. And then and I want you to ask questions. I want you to ask clarifying questions. I want you to challenge me. And I do want you to be respectful, and I'll be respectful to you, even if you disagree with me. But I do welcome the disagreements, because when it comes to the proverb, iron sharpens iron, that doesn't mean you're always in agreement with your buddies. It means that your buddies challenge you, your friends challenge you. So here it is. The existence of God is not an abstract philosophical inquiry. It's the foundation of every sermon, every prayer, and every moral obligation. When Paul stood on Mars Hill in Athens, he addressed the most learned men of his day, and he made a case for the living God. Paul's approach did not rest on novelty or speculation. He set forth the truth revealed by God and anchored it in observable reality. So the arguments presented in Acts chapter 17 are as relevant today as they were in the first century. They've been studied, refined, categorized by generations of theologians and philosophers, but their core remains unchanged. All 6 of these arguments show up in Paul's Mars Hill discourse. They derive from revelation of God, not from human invention. Every Christian should know them, be familiar enough with them to teach them in simplicity, and to defend them. So, without reading the entire chapter, the entire section of the scriptures, I'll use this as kind of an intro. Paul's spirit was stirred up in him, but when he saw that the city was wholly given to idolatry, and he went to Mars Hill and he said, "You men of Athens, come on, Tony." I quote this all the time. Let me go to the book of Acts, chapter 17. "You men of Athens," sorry, I got it. "You men of Athens, I perceive that in all things you're too superstitious. For as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found one with this inscription, to the unknown God, whom therefore you ignorantly worship. Him declare I unto you." And that's what this podcast, that's what this article, that's what it's all about. So let's start with logical argument number 1, the cosmological argument. This is God as the creator. God that made the world and all things therein, seeing that he is Lord of heaven and earth, dwelleth not in temples made with hands, Acts 17:24. Paul began with the fact of creation. The universe does not account for itself. Every effect has a cause, and the chain of causes cannot regress indefinitely. In other words, there has to be an uncaused first cause. The existence of the world points directly to a necessary cause. Paul identified that cause as God. He made the world and all that is therein. He is not bound, God is not bound by temples or confined by human hands. This argument, stated in modernity as the cosmological argument, arises from this reality. If anything exists, there must be a sufficient explanation. The world bears the marks of design, origin, and purpose, all of which lead to the Creator. Paul dismissed every attempt to credit creation to local deities, chance, or myth. The Christian position is grounded in the fact that God stands as the uncaused first cause behind all things. And again, if you articulate this argument to the atheist, you're not going to have to run after him because he's running to the waters of baptism to give his life to God through Jesus Christ. But this is one thing that your atheist friend will have to contend with. Here's the next. God as the necessary being. It's the ontological argument for the existence of God. This is the argument from nature. Not nature as in nature versus not nature. Nature versus the city. Nature. What is the opposite of nature, I wonder? It's crazy. It's crazy to me that we can see anthills and beehives and stuff like that are so complex, and they change their environment so much, and we say that's nature. But whenever humanity builds a city over here that does the same thing that's just as complex, maybe it's not as complex in some ways, and we say that's not nature. Anyway, the ontological argument has to do with identity and nature and all that good stuff. So Paul described God as the source of all life, independent of human needs or offerings. Paul said he's neither worshipped with men's hands as though he needed anything, seeing that he giveth to all life and breath and all things. So the ontological argument affirms that God, by definition, is the greatest conceivable being. He is not improved by worship. He's not dismissed by neglect. All life, breath, and existence depend upon him, not the other way around. Idolatry, on the other hand, reduces deity to the level of a creation, of the created. Paul confronted that error directly. God doesn't lack. He doesn't need. He doesn't require. Except in that he says, you do this. And the reason that we follow his commands is because they're good for us. not because he needs us to do it. It's like when you give of your means and you give as you've been prospered on Sunday or whatever day you choose to do it. God doesn't need your money. You need to sacrificially give to God. It's kind of like the illustration with the mother with her 3-year-old daughter. The 3-year-old daughter is an insertion in the process that inhibits and restricts the process. It would be easier for the mother to bake a batch of cookies without the daughter. It's not that the mother needs the daughter to help her. It's that the daughter needs to help the mother because there are lessons in this. God possesses all things inherently. He doesn't need anything from us. Any conception of God that falls short of this is insufficient. Christians must continue to uphold the truth that God's nature is self-sufficient and absolute, and that he is the greatest being in any conceivable reality, and if human beings could conceive of a greater, then that ontologically would be God. So number 3, the teleological argument. This is God as the designer and ruler. Look at Acts chapter 17, verse 26. And hath made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on them all the face of the earth. And hath determined the times before appointed by the bounds of their habitation. Paul pointed to the order and structure present in creation, and incidentally human history. Nations exist, boundaries are set, and times are appointed, not by chance, but by divine purpose. The teleological argument draws attention to the observable order in the universe and in history. Such regularity does not emerge from chaos. Just ask your atheist. Chaos never produces order except for that one time in the Big Bang. That's the only time it's ever happened, but yet they don't want you to believe in miracles. You get it? Paul's statement reveals God's intentional design. He governs the affairs of men and the progress of nations. The world is not the product of accident. Christians must insist that order, structure, and purpose in nature all testify to a sovereign designer. And then, of course, the universal search for God, the religious argument. The purpose that God created man is that they should seek the Lord, if haply they might feel after him and find him, though he be not far from every one of us. Paul recognized the universal impulse to seek meaning beyond the material. All cultures develop religious forms. Blaise Pascal opined about the God-shaped hole in the chest of every man, and the only thing that can fill it is God. Man tries to fill it with all kinds of other things, but it's only God that can satisfy that desire to be complete. All people search for transcendence. Paul traced this impulse to the Creator himself. God made man with the capability and the capacity to desire to seek him. The religious argument for the existence of God draws its strength from this universal phenomenon. Paul's words affirm that God is near. He's accessible, not remote. The urge to worship, to search for higher purpose, it reflects God's design in humanity. Christians should never treat faith as an accident of culture. It's an answer to a longing placed in every human heart by the one who made it. And then the 5th argument, the moral argument. God is the ground and foundation of morality and the boundaries of morality. For in him we live and move and have our being, as certain of your own poets have said, for we also are his offspring. Well, that's verse 28, by the way. Paul established that every fact of life, every facet of life, is grounded in God. All existence depends on him. Even the pagan poets recognized the connection between humanity and the divine. The moral argument finds its basis in this relationship. Every culture demonstrates a sense of right and wrong, an oughtness, if you will. Objective morality points to an objective moral lawgiver, an object, a lawgiver. Morality cannot be fully explained by evolution, social contract, or personal preference. It reflects the will and nature of God. When atheists start preaching morality, they are setting themselves up as the arbiter of what is moral and what is immoral. Paul's use of the poets demonstrated that even in the absence of revelation, humanity retains some awareness of moral accountability to a higher source, because the atheist, and the proof of this that I would offer, is the atheist never says, I'm appealing to my own authority. He always appeals to something higher than himself, but the problem is he doesn't believe in the highest. So his appeals always fall short. Christians must defend the truth that God alone grounds the standards of right and wrong. And then this is one of my favorite, the aesthetic argument. Aesthetic has to do with how things look. Let me give you a look up aesthetic right here. Concern with beauty or the appreciation of beauty. You ever noticed a herd of cows in a field? You know, they never look up at the sunset. They never look up at the starry sky. They never look at that blade of grass and the flower of grass in its momentary glory and say, man, this is so beautiful. No, they just eat it and they poop. They poop right on it. They don't care because they're animals. Paul addressed the Athenians' artistic representations of deity. While human creativity reflects something of the divine image, it does. It cannot capture or contain God. The aesthetic argument notes that the human pursuit of beauty, meaning, and creativity points beyond mere survival. Art, music, and beauty belong uniquely to humanity. This pursuit testifies to a creator who endows his offspring with an appreciation for the transcendent. Is that not wonderful? I don't want to be very punny here, but is that not beautiful? Paul did not minimize artistic achievement. Folks, we need our artists, and quite frankly, we need them a little bit starving. I'm not saying that if you're an artist, you don't deserve money, but the starving artist trope is very interesting because you don't get really good art without suffering. I don't know why that is. It just is. We need our artists. And incidentally, to put a little toe in the political realm, that's why any good society has a left wing and a right wing. If the left wing and the right wing could agree on the destination, they could have a really good debate on the path. The problem is the left wing and the right wing don't agree on the destination. Anyway, Christians must recognize that beauty, like morality and reason, reflects the nature of God, but can never define or limit him. So those are our 6 logical arguments that are present in the book of Acts, chapter 17, in Paul's Mars Hill Discourse. Again, if you know these to a T and you can articulate them in simply where any person of any level of understanding could understand them, that's not going to be the be all end all of your Bible study. Basically, it gets you a seat at the table. It might help someone take you seriously where they wouldn't normally take you seriously. So Paul's defense on Mars Hill, it wasn't limited by categories of later philosophy. He spoke truth as God revealed it, and as reason confirms it. The cosmological, ontological, teleological, religious, moral, and aesthetic arguments remain enduring because they are grounded in Scripture and reality. God stands as the maker of all things. God possesses all sufficiency. God orders creation and history with purpose. God placed within humanity the drive to seek him, and God grounds all moral obligation. God is the foundation and the boundary of all moral obligation. And God is the source of all beauty and art. Each point, each argument stands as a challenge to idolatry and a summons to faith. The world remains in need of these truths. Christians are called to present them without apology, with clarity and conviction, so that all who seek may find the living God. And that's it. That's the content. It's so simple to me, and I love it. Now, let me get to the comments because we got some good ones. Thank you, Gold Trap. Incidentally, I pulled it. I was going to do. I'm really awkward. I don't understand social contracts very well. If you want to have a good understanding of who I am, go watch The Big Bang Theory. I'm Sheldon, okay? I'm not saying I'm smart like him. I'm saying I don't understand social boundary. I don't understand social contract, rather. I understand social boundaries pretty good, but it's the social contracts that I have trouble with. So I was going to share where it says Jason Goldtrap and Tony Brewer are friends for 3 years, and I was going to try to make a joke, but every time I tried to make a joke, it just when I said it out loud, I'm like, oh, that sounds insulting, or that sounds, I don't know. Anyway, I'm glad that you're on my timeline, Goldtrap. I'm glad you joined us. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're my friend on Facebook for many years to come. I'll just say that. All right. And that goes for everybody else too. It's just Goldtrap come up in my memories today. Now where are we at? Yeah, urban, suburban, and rural. Yeah, what's the opposite of natural? Urban, suburban, rural. Exactly. Good stuff. Thank you for those words. Goldtrap, does God govern the affairs of nations today? Does God determine who will be the next prime minister in Moldova? More or less a rhetorical question. That's a really good question, actually. Let me go to my trusty rusty e-sword. Daniel, where are you, Daniel? I would have a better time finding it if I just opened the Bible. Nebuchadnezzar, the king, unto all the people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I thought it good to show the signs and wonders that the high God hath wrought toward me. How great are his signs, and how mighty are his wonders. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and his dominion from generation to generation. And then we have Nebuchadnezzar's dream. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at rest in mine house, and flourishing in my palace. I saw a dream which made me afraid. And the thoughts upon my bed and the visions in my head troubled me. Therefore I made a decree to bring all the wise men of Babylon. So tell me what this means. Okay. What is the verse? This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, verse 17, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men and giveth it to whomsoever he will and setteth up over it the basest of men. We got a really base. When I say base, I mean a deplorable, a debased Mark Carney as a prime minister. That's because of God. God either let him passively allowed him to gain that position, or actively put him there using providence, using the system that he set up. I read nothing in the New Testament that negates the principle that is found here. In fact, this is a universal statement. The living needs to know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This happened a lot. I remember whenever Barack Obama was elected, and so many Christians in the South were talking about how terrible it was, and he was a bad president, and they could see, but they were talking about it, and I'm like, look, you got to trust God. Maybe we got Barack Obama because that's what we deserved, and then later maybe we got Joe Biden because that's what we deserved. Now, that doesn't mean that God from heaven miraculously appointed any leader at all, but God still rules in the kingdoms of men, and he sets up the basis of men, the rules to rule the nations from time to time, and sometimes he'll set up a good man to rule the nation. I suppose there's nothing I've said here that contradicts Romans chapter 13, and let's just get to it. Let's get to it. Where are you, Romans? Right there. So I'm going to read this. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. That was true on the day Paul wrote it. I mean, it didn't become true on the day Paul wrote it, but it was true, and Paul wrote it, and it's significant to know that it was true the day Paul wrote it. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive unto themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good. And thou shalt have praise of the same. For he, the ruler, is the minister of God to thee for good, but if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore you must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay tribute also, for they are God's ministers. That was written whenever Nero was in power. Now I'm just going to pull my let's see. Give me a brief overview of all the EVIL things Emperor Nero did. Let's just see what we come up with. I'm curious. Emperor Nero, who reigned from 54 to 68 AD, is remembered in history for a reign marked by cruelty, self-indulgence, and acts of brutality, both personal and political. God put him there, folks, or God actively put him there, or passively allowed him to be there. Very good. Now, this is rendering, so I'm going to go back and get some. More comments. We need to support artists making good art. It's not enough to condemn bad art. We must extol beauty, especially through our social media posts, Bible memes, nature, beautiful art, and beautiful music and art. Yes, I agree, Goldtrap, 100%. And then God made the sunflower before he made the sun. With beauty, with wisdom, he ordered creation. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, now let me see what we've got here. So, historical records about Nero, especially from Roman historians such as Tacitus, Suetonius, Suetonius. I don't know how that's pronounced. I'm assuming it's Suetonius, but it could be Suetonius. And Cassius Dio. They detail many of Nero's wicked actions. Below is a concise overview. So here it is. Nero orchestrated the deaths of many of his own family to secure his power. He arranged the poisoning of his stepbrother Britannicus. He forced his mother, Agrippina the Younger, to commit suicide after several failed assassination attempts. I didn't know this. He later ordered the murder of his first wife, Octavia, and is also believed to have killed his second wife, Poppaea Sabina, by kicking her during pregnancy. That seems like a nice fella. This is the fella about whom it was said by Paul that this is God's servant. He persecuted and executed Christians. After the Great Fire of Rome in AD 64, Nero blamed the Christian community for the disaster, which incidentally, he did it, and it was to gentrify Rome. He initiated a severe persecution. Christians were tortured, crucified, and burned alive as human torches in Nero's gardens. This established a precedent for later imperial executions. Now, there was execution and exile of political opponents. Nero executed or forced the suicide of prominent senators and nobles he suspected of plotting against him, including his trusted advisor Seneca, the poet Lucian, and others. He was notorious for purging perceived rivals from his administration. This sounds a whole lot like I'd be if I was given supreme power. I think that's why God keeps me down. Don't put me in charge of anything. You know, if I was in charge of the world and other worries, that's a pretty good book to read, by the way. But if I were in charge of the world, I'd be a tyrant. I wouldn't be suited for it. Aren't you glad I'm not? Anyway, extravagance and neglect. Nero drained the Roman treasury. He sounds like a Democrat, y'all. Nero drained the Roman treasury with lavish spending on his own pleasures, including the construction of the extravagant Domus Aurea, the Golden House, after the fire destroyed much of the city. His neglect of governmental duties and focus on art and performance undermined the empire's administration. And then there's the Great Fire of Rome. Many ancient sources accused Nero of starting the fire to clear the land for his palace, though the historical accuracy of this claim is debated. Yeah, I set it forth up there as if it were true. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. He was widely blamed for the disaster, and his response included massive executions and deflections of blame. And again, oppression of the populace, cruelty for entertainment. Nero's legacy is defined by murder within his own family, the brutal persecution of Christians, political purges, financial irresponsibility, indulgence in personal excess, and cruelty of entertainment, and cruelty as entertainment. His reign ended in chaos and suicide as rebellion swept through the Roman Empire. Roman society remembered Nero as a byword for tyranny and evil. I wonder if we could make a... I don't know why sometimes it cuts the camera off when I leave the... I think I'm going to have to put the studio in another... I think I'm going to have to put the studio in another window so it don't shut the camera off. I can't believe there's so many people watching on YouTube. Thank you so very much. But hopefully, Gold Trap, that answers your question. Does God govern the affairs of nations today? Does God determine who will be the next prime minister in Moldova? More or less rhetorical question. The short answer is yes. The long answer is a little bit more nuanced, but that's how I would answer it. Folks, I've enjoyed this. I know I was probably really weirdly, my energy was probably weird because I was a little stressed out. I've been functioning far beyond my ability to function. I know that's oxymoronic, but I just have been this morning. I think I've got a lot of stuff lined out, a lot of stuff taken care of. Incidentally, we have received officially this year's invite for us to apply for permanent residence. And last year we would have gotten permanent residence if we would have had $30,000 in the bank for at least 6 months, or we would have had 1 year or longer on a work permit. Well, we don't have $30,000 in the bank, but we do have much longer than a year on a work permit. So this time we've got all our ducks in a row. Hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have permanent residence and I can get a secular job to help support us up here and help support the church and all that. The church is supporting us well. We're not receiving... Let me make sure I'm telling the truth on this. I don't think we are receiving a dime from outside support. There are a couple of people that will send me money directly, but that is not for the church. And they know it's not for the church. There is nobody from the United States sending the Riverview Church of Christ any money for the day-to-day operation of the church. The Riverview Church of Christ is fully self-supporting, even paying me a part-time salary. God be praised. The Riverview Church of Christ is no longer a welfare case. It took less than 3 years to do it. God be praised. These people have worked. These people have sacrificed. These people have stuck together. It's a very good congregation. And I highly suggest anybody to come up here and take a little vacation this summer and come by and see what the wonderful things that are going on at the Riverview Church of Christ. And we don't even want your money. That's the beautiful thing. We're going to have to build a building eventually. We're going to have to do an add-on or something, but we can tighten the belt and we can deal with that, especially once I'm able to work. Once I'm able to get a secular job, I'm going to take even less money from the church for my salary. I've already cut $1,000 a month. So I told the church, you're giving me X number of dollars per month. Let's cut it. I think we just cut it by 800. I don't think we cut it by 1,000. Anyway, I'll give you the name of the treasurer and you can call him. Well, I'm going to cut it even more once I get permanent residence. I can't wait. God's doing so much up here, and it's all to his own glory. God be thanked. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to end on, folks. Remember, this is Tony Brew with Cogitations, powered by the Christianity Now brand. This is an independent brand. This is not part of any congregational ministry. This is a personal ministry that will follow me anywhere I am. Thank you for that. If you want to support this ministry, there's ways to do it in the show notes. That's all we've got. God bless you, and we're going to upload the archive to this on Spreaker, hopefully in the next couple or 3 hours. My suggestion, my request, not my suggestion, that sounds, how come I'm talking like that? My request would be for you to go to the Substack Open this link, read the article, send the article to your friends, share it on your social media, inviting people to subscribe. It is free, won't cost you a dime, but if you want to do a $5 a month subscription or $50 a year, then you will have access to all the stuff behind the paywall. And there's a little bit of stuff behind the paywall, and I've been slowly but surely ramping up, going to put even more premium content out. So God bless every one of you. This is Tony Brewer with Cogitations, and we'll catch you on the flip side.